Hi everybody, thanks for joining me for part 2 of this series about doing research for Roadmap. Again, I'm Travis Hejak with the Everett Library. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use popular sources for your academic research. So I'm starting with Google. Google is not the only search engine that's out there, but it's the one that most people use, so I'm going to use that as an example today. But you should use Bing or DuckDuckGo or whatever you're most comfortable with. So I'm going to go back to my example of having to do a research project about the idea of food deserts. And I am going to start with just exactly that. So I'm going to search that. I see a Wikipedia entry here. I see something from foodispower.org. I don't know what that is. I see something from the Annie E. Casey Foundation. So when we get search results on Google, there are a lot of factors that go into what populates the top results. One is the relevance of your search terms. So I put in food desert. The top result is a Wikipedia article on food deserts. Google is also looking at how many pages link to a certain page, and pages that have more links that go to it tend to wind up higher on search results. But there are also other things like your location, your past search history, and advertisements that can influence the top results in search results. So it's not always just the most relevant results that are coming up to the top. So we need to be critical about those results to make sure that we're actually getting the information that we need. So I am going to skip the Wikipedia one and this other one, and I'm going to focus on this result here. I'm going to open it in a new tab. So I don't know what the Annie E. Casey Foundation is. So anytime I find an unfamiliar source, I don't want to just start reading it and spend time on it when it might not be something that's actually useful for what I need. So the first thing I'm going to do is open a new tab, and I am going to search for the Annie E. Casey Foundation. So I see their website, but I don't necessarily want to go there to understand more about them because you can say whatever you want about yourself on your own website. I am going to go to Wikipedia. So a lot of students have been told not to use Wikipedia for their own research, and there are good reasons for that. One is that anybody can edit Wikipedia. So it could be somebody with a particular bias about a topic, or somebody who is not an expert on a topic, providing inaccurate information. Those are all legitimate concerns with Wikipedia. However, Wikipedia does have editorial processes, and the information usually gets crowdsourced, so a lot of people are reviewing that information to try to minimize that bias and make sure that the information is accurate. In fact, there have been studies from information scientists that have found that Wikipedia is usually pretty accurate on most topics, and it's almost always more current than the information in commercial encyclopedias that you would pay for. So it's a very useful resource because it's very easy to access and it's very comprehensive, but we should always be critical about the information that we find on it. So something to note is things like this alert box that appears at the top, where it notes that contributors to the article have a close connection with the subject, that the article might read like a press release, and so it might not be the best information about a topic. The reason that I'm going to Wikipedia for information about this source is I want to make sure that the Annie E. Casey Foundation has some understanding of this topic that it's explaining here, and also to see if there are any red flags about this organization. I want to make sure that they are not known for spreading misinformation or for having a significant political agenda that would affect the way they cover certain issues. So I'm going to look at this Wikipedia article, and any information that I find in here needs to be supported with citations. So I can see that as they talk about the history, they're citing both the organization itself, but also independent research. So that is corroborating the information that they provide that allows me to trust it a little bit more. So as I scroll down, I can see that they are mostly focused on child welfare in the United States, that they've been a part of a lot of different initiatives, and I don't see any major red flags that say something like they are known for spreading misinformation. I'm going to check another place just because I did see these issues brought up on this Wikipedia page. So I'm going to open another tab and search for this again. And there's another organization called Influence Watch that monitors nonprofit organizations. So they give background information on this organization, and Influence Watch as well cites its sources, so we can reasonably trust that this information is accurate. And again, as I scroll through this, I see that they have a long history. I can see that they have donated to organizations across the political spectrum. And I can see some of the areas that they focus on. And again, I'm not finding any major red flags as I scroll through here. You don't have to spend a whole lot of time on this part of your research, but you want to at least get a first glance about an organization or about a source that's providing information before you trust any of that information that they're providing. So I've established that this might be a good source to look at to get an overview of this topic and maybe get at least one perspective on it. So before I actually start to explore the information in this source, I want to know what kind of source it is. And if I look at the URL, I can see that it is a blog. So how do blogs get published? They don't go through a formal review process. There aren't necessarily editors that are checking the content to make sure that it's accurate. Anybody can buy a domain and start publishing a blog about anything they want. They don't have to have any expertise on the topic, and they don't have to prove that their information is credible. So with blogs, you want to be skeptical to make sure that the information they're providing is evidence-based. So as I scroll through here, they give me an overview about what this concept is. Food desert is an area where residents have few to no convenient options for securing affordable and healthy foods. And they talk about who tends to be impacted by this. And I see right here, they cite a study from Johns Hopkins University, which would be a peer-reviewed study coming from academic researchers. So peer review is a system where scholarly articles are reviewed before they ever get published. So if I am a researcher studying food deserts, I will submit my article to a scholarly journal that has a track record of publishing on this topic or related topics. I don't get paid to publish that article. I'm doing it just because I want to advance the body of knowledge around this topic. And before that article gets published, other researchers in this field, other people with expertise in it, are going to examine my research study and make sure that the evidence that I collected is appropriate, that the way I collected it made sense, and that the conclusions that I drew from that evidence made sense. So they're doing a lot of that evaluative work for the information before you even see it, which means that generally we can trust peer-reviewed research to be credible, to be accurate, and to have minimal bias. So that's a major difference between scholarly sources, those ones that are peer-reviewed, and popular sources like this blog here, which are not peer-reviewed. So let's talk about all the reasons that somebody might publish an article. So for this one, we know that this organization advocates on behalf of child welfare. So they're concerned about the issue of food deserts and the negative impact that it might have on the health of America's children. So they have a particular agenda with this. That doesn't necessarily mean that this information is wrong or uncredible. It just means that we need to be aware of that lens that they're looking at this through. There are all sorts of reasons that people publish. In this case, they want to inform and advocate about an issue. Other people might publish because they want to sell a product or they want to expand their influence. And then publications like those scholarly journals that do peer review that we talked about earlier, those are generally just publishing to inform. In general, academic researchers get into their fields not because they want to get famous or make a bunch of money, but because they're really curious about the topic. They want to advance the scholarly conversation around this topic that they care about a lot. And so they spend years dedicating themselves to better understanding this topic by doing original research on it. And they establish credibility about their work by citing their sources. So they're always talking about the previous research that they're building on. and they describe their methods for collecting and analyzing evidence. So now that we've talked about differences between popular sources like this blog and scholarly articles, which we'll look at in the next video, how can we use popular sources in our own research? Well, one is getting background information about a topic. I know more about the idea of food deserts than I did before I read this article, so that was helpful. I can also get links to other research on this topic. So like this peer-reviewed study from Johns Hopkins University, that might be something that I can cite in my own research. I can also get additional search terms or avenues to explore from this. So now I know that this tends to affect people in smaller populations, with higher rates of abandoned or vacant homes, people who might live in poverty. They also talk about the disproportionate effect on Black communities. All of these are avenues that I might then take to explore this topic. So now that I have a basic understanding of this topic that I got through reading more readable articles like these popular sources, and now that I have an idea about how I might want to explore this topic, now I can start digging into those scholarly sources that we talked about earlier, which we'll do in the next video.